I'm going to take you through 10 lead guitar methods that's going to give you that unique twist to your guitar solos and help you further develop your own signature style and sound. Now, let me warn you, we're going to cover a lot of territory. We're going to cover everything from pinch harmonics to arpeggios to tapping to speed picking and several more. But there's going to be that unique little twist to each method that I show you how to implement, and that's the part that's really going to bring your guitar solos to life. And hang around to the end of the video. I'm going to share just a very short clip of all 10 methods back to back, so that will be something cool to see. All right, we've got a buttload of ground to cover, so let's jump right into these 10 lead guitar methods. Now, this is a killer way to start out a guitar solo, and it's just a simple little slide technique that I do. Hopefully I'll come up with a cool name for it by the time I put this video out there. But the reason why I'm showcasing this little technique first is because I've done this in other videos, and I've had so many of you reach out to me and ask, dude, can you show us what you're doing? So here it is. Now, this is like super simple, and all I'm doing is I'm basically I'm borrowing two strings, right? Same fret, and I'm just sliding it up the neck before I start my little solo pattern, whatever I'm going to play. And how I do this is depending on what string I start with. So let's say, for example, I'm going to start my guitar solo down here around the 12th fret or wherever on the E string. So that means I'm going to start out on the E and the A string, barring two notes there. And to be honest, I don't even think about what fret to start on, because I'm not really going to hang on that fret. I'm not really going to actually play a note. I'm just going to start the slide from there. So whether I start on the 2nd fret, barring the 2nd fret across the E and A string, or the 4th or 5th, it might not even fit into that little scale that I'm going to play. It doesn't matter, because again, I'm not really hanging on that note. I'm just starting somewhere. And the reason I'm bringing that part up, because I don't want you to overthink, well, where should I start at? It doesn't matter. Just start somewhere, just like this. Just close your eyes and... This is another cool way to start out a guitar solo, just going right into it. So you pre-bend the string. I'm calling this a pre-bend. I'm sure there's like a fancy technical name for it, but you pre-bend that string, then pick that note and just let that glide back down, and then go into whatever you want to play after that. So let's go through that one more time. You'll see I'm bending the 15th fret. I'm going to pre-bend it up to that note that would be the 17th fret, like this. So this is more of a rhythmic pattern for your guitar solo, and this is one of those things you can kind of throw in there in the middle of the solo to kind of break things up a little bit, or maybe you start the guitar solo out with something like this before you go into those single note leads. And what's cool about this little technique, all we're doing is we're just doing downstrokes and palm muting those notes. What's cool about this is it almost sounds like a rhythm part of the song, but it's actually part of the guitar solo. And I'll go through the notes real quickly here. I don't really care that you learn exactly what I'm playing, by the way. What I care about is just grasping the technique that I'm showing you here. And again, we're playing downstrokes, palm muting, and we're going back and forth between two strings. In this case, those will be the D and the G strings. So let's play that pattern, and I'll kind of break this down for you. So we start out by barring the 9th fret on here on the D and G strings, and we're going to play those back and forth, and then you're going to keep that first finger in that position. And then the other frets that you're going to be playing here are on the G strings, going to be frets 11 and 12. And that's it. Just follow, knowing those frets, just follow the pattern here. And then you could even go into something like what I just did, which I totally just made that up. I had no intent on playing whatever that was, and I probably won't remember it. So anyway, again, I'm not really concerned that you play what I played, but grasp that technique and come up with something on your own for that, and just play around with going back and forth between those two strings and palm muting, and that just gives you a really nice edge to your guitar solo, and it really spices things up from the typical single note guitar solo. So very similar to the last technique that we played, and we're kind of in the same area here, same notes. We're doing another rhythmic and very melodic pattern here, and this kind of stuff, I love this kind of stuff in guitar solos because it kind of gets you away from the norm and gives you this sense of melody, which really I believe captivates the listener, whoever's listening to your guitar solo and your music. It really kind of sends them on that journey and tells that little story. So all I'm doing here, I'll share this technique with you, is just alternate picking, kind of speed picking rather. We're palm muting as well, but we're only on one string, unlike the last little technique that we went through, which was on two strings. Remember, we were picking back and forth between those strings. Here, again, we're just on the one string, in this case, the G string, and I'm starting out on that 9th fret. And what I'm doing is I'm alternate picking with a little palm mute down there as well, and I'm just going back and forth between the notes, which are the 9th fret, the 12th and 11th fret, just kind of going back and forth there. So let's go through that one more time here. Really simple. Just get that rhythmic pattern down with your right hand, or your picking hand rather, and remember, you're just alternate picking that, and you've got that little rhythm there to it. I'm probably not explaining this right, but of course you can hear it. And try that pattern, try that technique rather, throughout different places on your fretboard. Again, you don't have to necessarily play exactly what I'm playing. I want you to get the technique, not necessarily what notes I'm playing. That really doesn't matter in this case. You know, play that anywhere on the fretboard. We'll give you some more examples here. And like most of the stuff I do on my YouTube videos, I totally just made all of that up, and I'm not going to remember what I played, so don't ask for tabs because I don't remember. Anyway, again, it's not important that you learn what I'm playing, it's important that you grasp the technique. So I want you to practice that, make up your own patterns. I strongly encourage you guys to do that. Make up your own stuff and just play whatever you feel inside deep down. Let it come out, but alternate pick for it to come out for this particular technique. Now, what's extremely cool about this lead guitar method is we're breaking away from the extremely typical, and I'd venture to say overdone, sweep arpeggio pattern that it seems like every shred guitarist is doing all over the fretboard these days. Hey, it's cool, but sometimes it gets old after about 20 seconds. So this is a way to break that up and add some more feeling and some life to that arpeggio. So what we're doing in this case, we're stopping about halfway through the arpeggio, and I'll call out the notes here and share what I'm doing. Now this particular arpeggio, you can do this with just about any arpeggio, but this is a very common one. So we're starting on the A string, and I'll just call out the frets. On the A string, 15th fret, then we're going 14, 12, 11, 12, and then the 15th fret, we're gonna hammer. I'm actually gonna pick that 15th fret. A lot of times when you're doing arpeggios, you'll do a hammer on. Normally you would hammer on from 12, 15, 12 on that E string because you're gonna go back the way you came in. In this case though, I'm actually gonna pick that 15th fret on the E string, and I'm already gonna have my ring finger ready on the 14th fret to do that bend. Now you could stop there. I mean, that's enough to break up the typical kind of overdone sweep arpeggio pattern. That's enough right there. Just put that little bend in there, and then maybe you might want to go back through the pattern, you know, the way you came in, or do something else, whatever you want to do. But just that little bend in there to stop halfway through the arpeggio, I think that's enough to kind of break things up a little bit and just make the solo more interesting. However, in this particular case, and yeah, I really do make this stuff up as I'm sitting here in front of the camera for you guys, but I actually do a little hammer on after that bend, and I go back and land on the 12th fret of the B string, so it's like this. One quick little trick that I do, you'll notice that I will place my picking hand, 2 fingers from my picking hand, over the G and the E string when I pick that 12th fret B string, and that's just to prevent any string noise, because I'm going from the 12th fret E string to the 12th fret B string, and a lot of times you can pick up some string noise from that. So I'll just mute those strings, the G and the E, once I pick that 12th fret B string. That eliminates the noise. And again, you can perform this technique anywhere throughout the fretboard for any arpeggio. In fact, if you have a favorite sweep arpeggio that you play quite often and you've gotten really good at, try to throw that little bend in midway through it and just see how that sounds. Even though we were shredding a little bit here, there's a little trick that I want to share with you, and this is going to not only make your guitar solos sound cool when you need to kind of whip that out, but it's also going to help you extend that little part of the solo a little bit more. And it's kind of a little dirty trick that I use, and all I'm doing is I'm just duplicating each pattern that I play. I'm duplicating 3 notes before I go over to the next series of 3 notes. And again, this is kind of a dirty little trick here if you want to start playing faster and extend that fast part of your playing. So play 3 notes times 2, another 3 notes times 2, and so forth. So let me break down the little pattern I did. And I did this going up the fretboard and back down the fretboard as well. So I'll share all of this with you. First part of the pattern, we're playing only on the D and the G strings here. I'm starting out on the 14th fret, so we're going to go on the D string 14, 16, 17. We're going to play that twice. Then we're going to do the exact same thing on the G string. Again, really simple there. 14, 16, 17. You don't need tabs to remember that. So that's on the D string, play it twice, play the same thing on the G string twice. What I did after that was really the same exact thing, just using different frets. I'm just going up a little bit higher. And for that, I'm going to be playing 16, 17, 19 on the D string twice, then repeating that on the G string. And after that, I just threw in a little slide going up a whole step there. Now, I used the same concept going back the other way, and the reason I wanted to share both going up the fretboard and back down is because I want you to practice both, because it's real easy to get really good at one and not the other, and we tend to often play more of what we're great at, and sometimes we leave the stuff that maybe we're not so great at on the table for another time, because, you know, it's just cool to practice the stuff that you're naturally getting better at. It's, you know, it's cool to hear that, and it's encouraging to hear that, but I want you to practice both ways. So that last pattern that I did, going back down the fretboard, we're starting on the E string, and we'll do the patterns on the E and the B, the same patterns. The frets that we're playing here are, what is that, 19, 17, and 15. So we're doing that twice on the E string, then twice on the B string. After that, we're going to play patterns, the same patterns on the G string, then the D string, and actually we're going to play the same notes, but backwards that we started out with in the pattern I showed you before when we were going up the neck here. And again, those frets are going to be 17, 16, 14. So yeah, again, this is just a dirty little secret to shredding, to kind of extending that shred pattern and just making it sound faster and cooler. Clearly this riff is inspired by Maiden's Wasted Years, but I really wanted to share this as a tactic that you can use when playing your guitar solos, and when you want to be more rhythmic and have something that has that melody, that really powerful melody behind it, whether you're starting out the solo like this or whether you're doing this in the middle of a solo, just to again break things up. We've kind of talked about that throughout this video, breaking things up in the middle of the solo. That can be really captivating for the listener. So this is an extremely simple pattern here. There are only 5 notes, one of those notes being the open G string, and the frets we're going to be playing on beyond that are going to be 2, 3, 5, and 7. Those are the only frets, not in that order. So I'm just going to play this slowly. Knowing those frets, you can see where I'm playing here. I'm going to play that slowly for you just so you can get the idea of the pattern. Now, let me reiterate, I don't really care that you learn the specific pattern that I'm playing. What I want you to do is apply the tactic, okay? Create your own pattern, or you can play my pattern, or you can play Iron Maiden's Wasted Years. You can play that pattern. I think they play that on the E string. Play that with whatever you want to play it with. Really, I just want you to get the method down. Do that method on any open string and just play around with some of the frets, some of the notes. Let's just pick a random string. If you could tell me what string you'd like me to play on. I think I hear you saying play on the D string. Okay, we'll play on the D string. Let's try that one. As you would have guessed, I just completely pulled that out of nowhere, just completely made it up off the cuff. I want you to do the same. Again, it's the technique that we're learning here. It's alternate picking that open note and just hitting whatever frets between that you want to play. Just play whatever until you come up with something that sounds really cool. Now, this is a really cool visual technique, so if you're playing on stage to do something like this, it's just gonna look really cool. However, if you noticed, it's not the typical tapping. When we think of finger tapping, a lot of times we think of, you know, the Eddie Van Halen style or something along the lines of this. And that kind of stuff is cool too, but sometimes that kind of stuff can be overdone. And again, once you kind of get really proficient at one technique, you know, all of us guitar players tend to overdo that. So I think it's really cool to add these subtle little techniques into your guitar solos to give it that extra push and that extra life. So all we're doing here is we're just kind of playing a note with our tapping finger, and I'm just using my first finger here for this, and I'm tapping that note as if I were playing it. So let me bring it in close and show you exactly what I'm doing here. So the tapping part, we're doing all of that on that B string. And just to run through the frets real quick here, you're going to be playing the 12th, 13th, and 15th fret. You're going up, and then you're going to tap that 19th fret. And now I also do a little slide with my finger as well from 19 to 20 back to 19. Then I restart that pattern over again, and this time I'm just going to tap that 17th fret. I just want you to practice little things like that. Practice that finger tapping method, but just in a subtle nature. Just tapping just as if you were picking that note. And then maybe doing a little slide, into integrating some more methods into that. It just brings so much more life to your guitar solos. Now, I'll probably come back and do a complete video on pinch harmonics because that kind of needs its own video, its own lesson. But what I want to share with you in this particular part right here is not only doing that pinch harmonic. I mean, that was part of it, yeah, but if you notice, I did this wicked little bend along with that pinch harmonic that I hit on that G string. And I'll go over that with you, and I'm also going to try to give you some tips on how to get that squeal, how to get those pitch harmonics. So anyway, the pattern that I'm playing here, I started out on the D string, just playing that open. So open, 5, 7, then I went over to the G string on 5 and 7, and that 7th fret, that's when I bend up. So without the pinch harmonic, this is kind of what I'm doing. And that actually sounds pretty cool by itself. I don't really need the pinch harmonic. But anyway, on that 7th fret of that G string, that's when I'm doing that pinch harmonic, getting that squeal. There's a couple different things that you have to think about. One is how you hold your pick. And guys, I wish I could tell you how I do this because I seem to do it a little bit differently every time, and I know that doesn't help you, so I apologize. But basically, you're going to be picking that string, and as you pluck that string, as you pick that string, you're going to have your thumb right there on the edge of that pick. So that thumb and pick is kind of playing that string at the same time, and that's going to be the first part of giving you that pinch harmonic effect. Now the second part of that, and this is where I think a lot of people miss the boat, is it's also going to be determined, the pinch harmonic is going to be determined by where you pick around your pickup area. That has a lot to do with the type of sound that you're gonna get, and if you even get the pinch harmonic. So those combined, again, I will do a separate video on that at some point. If you already know how to do the pitch harmonic, and hopefully you can learn how with what I just shared with you there, I don't want you to just do the pitch harmonic. Remember, this whole video about lead guitar tips and tricks and all that good stuff, it's about adding a little bit more flavor to that technique, not just playing the technique. So I want you to grasp that. And in this case, we're doing the pitch harmonic, but we're kind of hanging on that little wicked bend there. So let me try to pull this off one more time for you. Now, I almost forgot to tell you, I also do the pitch harmonic when I go back to that D string on the same fret, on the 7th fret, and just get a little vibrato out of that as well. But again, I want you to just think about using the pinch harmonic technique along with another method, another technique, combining those together to get a different feel and different effect than the typical pinch harmonic. I think an appropriate name for this lick is Demon Shriek. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Alright, so we are doing a typical metal guitar solo technique here, and actually we're combining two methods, the obvious whammy bar with the harmonics on the neck here. But there are two things that make this lick unique, and it's going to make it stand out among all the other licks that you hear that are in this style. So first of all, we're using the harmonics that aren't in the most ideal place for playing these harmonics, and we're hovering right over the 4th fret. And as you may already know, for this particular harmonic to work in this area, which gives you that higher pitch and eerie and wicked sound, you've got to have that finger placed in the exact right place or you're not going to get that harmonic. So that's the first little tip to this. You're really going to have to play around with that if you're not used to playing the harmonic in that specific area. Now, second to that, we're not doing really a crazy dive with a whammy bar. It's kind of subtle. But after that, this is where the special part comes in. After that, we're going into just a normal lick here, but we're going to start out with the whammy bar kind of down already to get that really like wobble effect coming up with the note that we're going to be playing on the 7th fret G string. And then we're going to play that note, and then I'm just doing a simple little lick after that, going from 7 to 9, then over to the B string, 8th fret, then back to the G string, 9th fret. Real simple. So I'm going to play this whole riff for you a little bit slower. Now, I've got some parting thoughts for you, some things that will help you, but real quick, I want to just take you through a short clip of each of the 10 licks back to back. Now, I'd like for you to tell me in the comments which method was your favorite. In the YouTube description, I've got timestamps to each method, so if you ever want to go back and go through a particular method again, just go to the description, click on that little timestamp, it'll take you there, or hey, just go through the entire video again. That certainly won't hurt. But I would like to know what method was the most enticing to you, and what method are you going to use the most in your guitar solos. Maybe you're going to use all of them, but I'd like to know your favorite #1 method. So again, let me know in the comments. And guys, I really hope this lesson helped you. I'm not going to drag this last part out here because we've been going for quite some time and you're probably hungry now after going through all 10 methods here. But real quick, I just want to encourage you, and this is really the culprit of this entire video lesson here. I want to encourage you to focus on you. Don't compare yourself to other guitar players. And I know I've said things like this in past videos, but I think it's important to bring up. Sometimes we see other people doing awesome things and we're like, okay, well, it's kind of discouraging. It can be discouraging at times, but don't let any of that bring you down. What I want you to do is, again, focus on your own style, focus on finding your own signature style and tone and sound and all of that stuff, and understand that you are a unique person. You're a unique guitar player. There is no one on the face of this earth that can do exactly what you can do the way you can do it. So I want you to understand that. And I want you to think about guitar players like Eddie Van Halen, for example. He was like the master tapper, man. He could finger tap for days all over the place and do hammer-ons and pull-offs. That kind of was his signature sound, his signature style. Now think about guitar players like Slash, who doesn't necessarily play super fast. He can at times, and he's certainly not doing a gazillion sweep arpeggios up and down the neck, but when he plays a note, just one note, you know who it is. That's Slash. he has developed his own signature style and sound to the point where as soon as he hits that lead guitar note, you know it's him. Same with Joe Satriani. He can do all kind of stuff on guitar, but he's more of a melodic player, and this is something I talk about in a lot of my videos, is he cares more about the song than he does about showcasing, hey, look what I can do all over the place. Granted, he does show off his stuff, and that's cool. There's a time for that. But I say all that to bring you back to the point of don't worry about what someone else can or can't do, or really even what you can or can't do. Just keep pushing yourself to be a better guitarist, but more importantly, push yourself to develop your own style. And I know you have your own style already, but push yourself to further develop your own style so that when you strike that note, when you start playing that guitar solo, people know exactly who it is. So guys, I hope this video helped you. In the description, I also still have a link to my free guide, 10 metal riffs and licks. Make sure you download that if you haven't already. And until next time, as always, keep it metal.